Hey guys, Mapletail here. Today is my reaction to and review of the third book in Warriors Changing Skies, Chasing Shadows. So spoiler warning for the entire book, and this arc so far. And we're drawing a few things. We'll be starting with a drawing of Shadowsight, Frostdawn, and Moonpaw, inspired by the fact that my favorite characters keep being haunted every arc. Then moving on to two pieces from zines that I participated in. Spring Festival 2026, A Year of the Horse Zine, and Hello Friend, a K-pop Demon Hunters, Derpy and Sussie tribute. Let's get into it. As usual, I've already read and talked about the first few chapters when the preview dropped. I'll leave a link in the description in case you missed that video, but right now we'll be skipping right to chapter 4. It's a Starlingpaw POV. He realized he may have inherited the ability to see ghost cats as he stares at Crowfeather's spirit floating above his body. Yeah, you think, Starlingpaw? He watched on as Crowfeather talks to himself. Crowfeather wondering about who the cat Stoneteller had warned him about was. Interesting, more secrets. But Crowfeather doesn't reveal anything as his spirit returns to his body. The next night, his spirit walks again. Starlingpaw still keeping quiet about the fact that he can see Crowfeather, hoping to learn more by staying silent. And it pays off. Crowfeather thinking out loud some more. Quote, "They need to know what I learned from Stoneteller, in case I don't survive to tell any cat. One of the cats here will be faced with a choice. This deceiver might walk a dark path that could cause great pain to all the clans." End quote. Hello? I know I had half-jokingly mentioned at some point that it felt like Starlingpaw could be being set up to be a villain, but why does it feel like he actually might be? It would be really funny to see Starlingpaw worry so much over this prophecy cat, just for it to end up being himself. And sad too. The chapter ends with Starlingpaw worrying that Crowfeather could be the cat that Tawnypelt once spoke of. A cat with a paw in each world. One foot in the land of the living and another in the realm of ghosts. I'm pretty sure he's wrong again, but we love a theory. With chapter 5, we return to Tawnypelt. And I could not be less excited after how she spoke of Moonpaw in the preview. For a cat who says she doesn't want to ostracize Moonpaw for things completely outside of her control, she's doing a terrible job of it. Tawnypelt is full of regret, wishing she and Brambleclaw could have had more time together, now that he's fallen so ill, but ultimately knowing she made the right choice to move to ShadowClan all those years ago. After all, her son, Tigerstar, never would have been born if she hadn't. And wouldn't that have been such a tragedy? She decides it's time to return to ShadowClan to face her son, after staying away longer than he'd allowed, but promises Brambleclaw she'll return as soon as she can. As annoyed as I've been with Tawnypelt from earlier chapters, that feeling vanished before Tigerstar even opened his mouth. I'm glad Tawnypelt stood her ground against him as much as she could. Tigerstar accusing her of disloyalty, and forbidding her from speaking to the elders about their dreams that could very well end up showing the way to a new Moonpool-type place. It's just ridiculous. He truly does frustrate me like no other cat, and I'm low-key keeping my fingers crossed that Tawnypelt does leave ShadowClan permanently, just so we don't have to have a POV there anymore. Tawnypelt decides to show her loyalty by doing exactly what Tigerstar just ordered her not to. Going to visit SkyClan to speak with their elders. She logics her way out of going against Tigerstar by convincing herself that this is being loyal to ShadowClan. After all, if the prophecy isn't figured out and a new connection to StarClan isn't found, it'll spell doom for all the clans, ShadowClan very much included. There's not a chance in hell Tigerstar will see it that way, but good for her. Chapter 6, Moonpaw. She crashes into Goldenpaw, and the two end up talking about what Goldenpaw overheard in the preview. Moonpaw yelling at Morningkit. She tells him everything. Which, yes, finally. He reacts so kindly and is there to believe and support her. It was so nice to see, and something Moonpaw really needs right now. He suggests that she tells Squirrelstar and Ivypool, but promises to keep her secret for now. From all but one cat, his sister Shinepaw, who also reacts well. Good stuff! The three started sleeping all squished together, Moonpaw in between the siblings so that if she walked in her sleep, Goldenpaw and Shinepaw would be there to help. Oh my god, aw. That's the cutest thing I've ever read. I definitely need to draw that. In fact, it's probably what I'm drawing now, if I remember. I did not remember. The trio go out hunting all alone, and it goes well. Moonpaw and Goldenpaw clearly growing close. But Shinepaw begins to act a little off, saying they have to get back to camp. I was filled with dread when they made it back, and a whole group of cats, including Squirrel Star, Moonpaw's mentor and her parents, the medicine cats and queens, all sitting there waiting for Moonpaw, in grim silence. Shinepaw told them, didn't she? Both siblings did. Okay, not exactly. They just forced a situation where Moonpaw would have to tell everyone herself. It still feels a bit like a betrayal to me, but I can understand the apprentices feeling like they need help. I just hope that ThunderClan reacts with the same kindness that Goldenpaw and Shinepaw showed. I guess we'll find out in a couple chapters. It's moments like these I wish we didn't have so many POVs. At least the next chapter is quick. Starlingpaw finally speaks to Crowfeather's spirit, and the shock of it is enough to wake him up. That's about it. As for Tawnypelt in SkyClan, she watches Birchfeather take on his final trial, as he becomes a full member of SkyClan. Oh, Tawnypelt is not just doing a sneaky little visit here, she's staying for a few days? Okay, I definitely misread her intentions a little in the last chapter. Well, she's committed now, I just hope she learns something helpful. She speaks with the elders, and I'm not sure about useful yet, but she does learn some things. Like Leafstar's idea that SkyClan might return to the Gorge, and how against the idea Hawkwing is. It was cool to hear from so many SkyClan cats and their thoughts on everything going on. As for me, I'm still traumatized from SkyClan's journey here. I'm not exactly looking for a repeat. But I am surprised that no one even suggested visiting their old connection to StarClan, the Whispering Cave, even though the location was mentioned. I'm sure it'll occur to someone eventually. Alright. Moonpaw. We rejoin her just after she's told the gathered cats about Morning Kit haunting her. Sunbeam and Jayfeather are thankfully supportive, but Myrtlebloom and Daisy are confrontational. Worse than I'd feared. Why are these two even here for this? She should have been allowed to share this with her leader and the medicine cats first. And Squirrel Star is somewhere in the middle, not revealing too much of her feelings on the topic. Asking the cats if they thought Moonpaw should be allowed to roam freely until they figure out how to drive Morning Kit away. Okay, yikes. That's still not great. How about we work to set these young cats free and try to show Morning Kit that she'd be welcomed in StarClan instead of driving out someone who was a ThunderClan kit not that long ago. Just an idea. I know that what Morning Kit is doing to Moonpaw isn't right, but she's just a kid too, and just as trapped in this situation. Myrtlebloom gets even worse with it, suggesting that Moonpaw may just be, quote, very troubled, end quote. As this may just all be in her head. I was very thankful that Jayfeather rushed to her defense, saying that she's a good and loyal cat who is simply going through a difficult situation. Maintaining belief in Moonpaw and bringing the receipts, sharing that Brambleclaw has also seen Morning Kit. The conversation resolves with the idea to have Moonpaw speak to Tree and Rootspring, in hopes that other cats who can see spirits could help her. I'm just glad things went relatively okay. But it's tough seeing the Queen's intense mistrust and Moonpaw's resentment grow, as she can't help but feel a little betrayed by the only real friends she's finally found. Back with Starlingpaw, he's stirring up trouble, revealing to all the traveling cats what Crowfeather said as a spirit, saying he overheard Crowfeather talking in his sleep. But it's clear from Crowfeather's reaction, he remembers Starlingpaw being able to see him. Crowfeather clarifies that Stoneteller warns that a cat might go bad. It isn't too late to help, which only makes me think even more that it could be Starlingpaw. Meanwhile, Tawnypelt is back with ThunderClan, staying with them once more and sharing with Squirrel Star what she learned from SkyClan. The two worried that the clans might end up splitting up if nothing is done soon. But there is hope. If Tawnypelt can speak to all the elders, maybe the clans can cooperate instead of going separate ways. As they go to visit Brambleclaw, we overhear Jayfeather speaking to him. thanking him for being the only father he'd ever known. It was a really sweet moment, from a cat who is often anything but. To Tawny Pelt, Brambleclaw speaks of the orange cat, saying that there are things he needs to do for her and Moonpaw before he goes. Jayfeather fills her in on that whole situation, just before Ivypool and the traveling cats return. Tawny Pelt more worried about Crowfeather than any of the news they bring. Moonpaw. Aside from Sunbeam, it sounds like the clan, including Goldenpaw and Shinepaw, have been keeping their distance. It seems pretty cruel to force Moonpaw to share what's been going on with her, only for what she was worried about to start happening, ending up alone and isolated. This is exactly why she was scared to speak up. Tree comes to speak with her. He's really kind and understanding towards her, teaching her meditation to cope with what she's going through. When Tree spoke with Squirrelstar after, I was very glad to hear him call her out, saying she shouldn't be treating Moonpaw like she's dangerous. Well, we didn't hear too much about how Squirrelstar was feeling about it in the previous Moonpaw chapter. We certainly hear it now, calling her peculiar and disruptive to the clan. It sucks. I just hope she ends up taking Tree's words to heart. And thank goodness for Jayfeather, who later sneaks Moonpaw in for a visit with Brambleclaw, who wanted to see her. She may have a lot of cats who distrust her right now, but I'm glad she's not totally alone in this anymore. What Brambleclaw has to say, though, surprised me. He plans to try to take Morning Kit with him when he dies, to show her StarClan's beauty, and hopes she'll want to stay there. There's no way it'll work, but it's worth a try. The two curl up together and fall asleep. For Brambleclaw, it's for the last time. And Morning Kit is still very much around. Tawny Pelt. She learns of her brother's death and unfortunately sees Moonpaw leaving the den. I know she's grieving, but blaming Moonpaw for Brambleclaw's death is just horrible. She says so many terrible things to Moonpaw, saying she's condemned Brambleclaw to the Dark Forest, thinking her evil. The whole incident only pushes ThunderClan further from Moonpaw. Only her parents willing to sit next to her at the vigil. I know I gave Moonpaw a lot of flack for not speaking up about Morning Kit in earlier books, but oh my god, yeah, I can see it now. Tawny Pelt's speech at the ceremony is terribly hypocritical. Quote, "Goldenflower did her best to defend us from the mistrust of our clanmates, but I couldn't bear the looks of suspicion the other cats gave us." End quote. If only Tawny Pelt could take a page out of her mother's book when looking at Moonpaw. The young cat speaks next. Her words about Brambleclaw are lovely, speaking of his kindness towards her and desire to help her when few would. He was her friend, truly. The words reach Tawny Pelt, realizing she was wrong to blame Moonpaw. Thanks StarClan for that. I do not need to continue to see these two spiral against each other. I may have had very mixed feelings about Brambleclaw throughout the years, but it still feels like a big thing, saying goodbye to a cat who's been around since the very first arc. The gathering arrives, and we watch it with Starlingpaw. We learn of new SkyClan kits in Vine Kit and Cone Kit. I love getting to see some more unique names. And new ShadowClan warriors, Red Cloud and Spruce Tip. Kinda love both of those too. Even if they are definitely not what I guessed in my last Guessing Warrior Cats names video. Oh, and Silky Pod and Flufftail from WindClan. Also pretty cute. The gathering goes to hell after that, though. Crowfeather sharing what he learned from Stoneteller and Feathertail, but making the mistake of leaving things out again, only to be called out by Starlingpaw. Accusations being thrown around left and right. Crowfeather, Ivypool, Fidgetflake, ending with Tigerstar storming out with his clan after Shadowsight's name is brought up. And while I absolutely think he's an idiot for ignoring the prophecies, what is the point of going to the mountains to learn things if we're just going to ignore everything? I am here for him defending Shadowsight. My boy has been through enough. Thankfully, the other clans have no issue when Tawny Pelt requests to speak with their elders about Blue Star's prophecy. The prophecy from this arc, not the book by the same name. Starlingpaw does get punished, pretty harshly, for speaking out as he did. Normally this sort of thing would bother me, but I'm actually kind of with Hawkwing on this one. Telling the truth is important and all, but there are better ways of going about it. Why does this really feel like the start of Starling Paw's villain arc, though? An antagonist devoted to telling the truth, regardless of the damage it causes, is low-key so interesting to me. It's also very Hollyleaf, but hopefully we take this in more of an antagonist route, just to switch things up a little bit from how they did it with her. Oh, so it would be so ironic for Tawny Pelt if the apprentice she thought of as weird but harmless ended up being a much bigger problem than the one she considers weird and dangerous. Back with Moonpaw, she considers the prophecies, thinking that if Crowfeather's prophecy speaks of the same cat as Tawny Pelt's, then she can't be the two-faced cat, as she wasn't among the traveling cats. It really does make the whole thing a lot more interesting. I love a mystery, and I'm going all in on Starling Paw. I'm glad that Golden Paw and Shine Paw come to apologize to Moonpaw. That friendship was too sweet to let it die in resentment. Or maybe more than friendship, with how Moonpaw has been thinking of Golden Paw. She also dreams of Morning Kit, her sister swearing she'd only go to StarClan when Moonpaw did. Oh boy. Tawny Pelt continues her quest to speak to all the elders. The book having the audacity to skip over the RiverClan visit as she heads to WindClan. Shocking. I'm sure she won't just moon over Crowfeather the whole time or anything. Or not. It seems she's still bothered by him bringing up Shadowsight as a potential cat, with a paw in both worlds. It's him that escorts her home after she learns little from the elders, the two having a chance to talk. And Crowfeather not only reveals that he kept part of the prophecy a secret because he wanted to tell Tawny Pelt about it first, but also that he feels something between them. That they're more than old friends. Wow, okay, we're actually going for it. It's clear that while Tawny Pelt is conflicted, she feels it too. I'm just glad she decides to stay focused on everything else going on right now instead of pursuing this. Starling Paw. He's confined to camp for his outburst at the gathering. A couple of young warriors, including Beesting, think what Starling Paw did was brave, and in return, Starling Paw thinks to himself that Beesting is pretty cute. Wild. And when he's allowed on a hunting patrol, he injures himself and ends up back with the medicine cats. His family visits him, and we learn that Needleclaw and Robinpaw also think that Starling Paw was right to speak up when he did. He's getting a lot more support for it than I would have thought. It probably doesn't help with how split SkyClan already is. Back with Moonpaw, she and Goldenpaw hunt together, the pair growing ever closer, and Morning Kit feeling even more left behind, her voice continuing to grow fainter. That night, Moonpaw dreams of her future, a life with Goldenpaw as her mate. Shadows fall over the scene, Morning Kit materializing to attack Goldenpaw, ripping him to shreds. And when Moonpaw wakes, she sees she's attacked her friend in her sleep. Not as bad as in her dream, but close too. Goldenpaw is nothing but kind about it, but it's a crushing realization for Moonpaw. Morning Kit isn't going anywhere. As long as she's in ThunderClan, she may be putting everyone in danger. As a side note, I think Moonpaw and Goldenpaw are pretty sweet. I feel like their budding romance is the only one even remotely adding anything to the story, rather than just distracting from it. I think Tawny Pelt and Shadowsight's POVs would be better off without love stories for now. There are a lot more interesting things going on than whatever's going on with Crowfeather and now maybe Beesting, whose entire personality seems to be she has pretty fur. I don't mind a romance. It's a given with this series, but I'd rather it not end up being the focus of every POV. Unless we're gonna do something really interesting with it, which so far, not so much. Back with Tawny Pelt. She's staying in the Elder's Den now that she knows what's up with Moonpaw, and feels too uncomfortable in the Apprentice's Den. Okay. Squirrel Star speaks to her about what her plans are and offers her a place in ThunderClan, Tawny Pelt needing time to think things over. I kinda wish she would, but I don't really see her leaving ShadowClan permanently. And Dovewing comes for a visit. She actually apologizes to Tawny Pelt for blaming her about Birchfeather leaving ShadowClan. Hell yeah! She says the apology is from both her and Tigerstar, and that Tigerstar misses Tawny Pelt. I'm not really sure I believe that, though. Not to mention an apology through Dovewing is not gonna cut it for me either way. The two's talk of changing clans and different landscapes finally makes things click into place for Tawnypelt. When she spoke to the elders, she thought their dreams were totally disconnected. But they were all dreaming of the same place, just seeing it through the lens of their own territories. Quote, "A dark place where noises whispered, and the scent of water was nearby." End quote. Tawnypelt realized that that's where they must travel to reach StarClan. The Whispering Cave. Ding ding ding, we have a winner. In SkyClan, we learn of weird shuffling noises being heard in the night. What's this now? Doesn't really sound like two-leg trouble, but what else could they be throwing at us? SkyClan is pretty ready to accept that it's maybe just a fox or something, but Starlingpaw, of course, speaks up, saying it could be the Deceiver. Oh my god, this cat. He gathers some of the younger warriors, including his sister, his crush, and Birchfeather and Ridgeglow. He wants to form a secret group? To watch for the Deceiver in the night? What the hell? The plan is to watch from trees at night. Robinpaw backing out at that point, which, fair, this plan is wild. But the rest of the cats are on board. That evening, Starlingpaw sits in his chosen tree, thinking what a great warrior he will make, aspiring to prove Hawkwing is the wrong cat to lead SkyClan next, that in fact, it should actually be himself. Alright, that's it. He's officially lost the plot. In all his daydreaming, something sneaks up on him. He tears it to pieces without a second thought. It ends up just being a squirrel, this time, but I can't help but still feel this is only just the beginning of a dark path for Starlingpaw. In ThunderClan, Moonpaw dreams of Brambleclaw, who warns her that danger is coming. Moonpaw assuming that the danger is herself and Morningkit after what happened with Goldenpaw, something she struggles to get out of her head. She gives herself one more day in ThunderClan before leaving it behind forever. A perfect day. A quiet morning with her parents, an afternoon doing well in training with Sunbeam, and an evening walk with Goldenpaw, where he asks her if one day they could be mates. The only one she doesn't go to see was Jayfeather, fearing he'd somehow sense her plans. That night, she bids her clan a silent farewell, taking off into the forest. I feel terrible that Moonpaw believes she has to leave to protect her loved ones, but given the circumstances, I see where her head is at. In the morning, Tawnypelt considers her own journey outside the clans, trying to come up with a plan to convince all the leaders to send cats with her to check out the Whispering Cave. I imagine Squirrelstar and Leafstar will agree pretty quickly. I'm sure things will go terrible with Tigerstar, and Icestar and Hairstar landing somewhere in the middle. She goes to see her son first. Honestly, it's not as bad as I expected. He almost apologizes to her, and is a little less quick to anger, but the pair are interrupted by Whistlebreeze, delivering news that it appears the two legs are clearing out of the moon pool. I don't buy it for a second. Even if they are leaving, I'm sure there is some kind of irreparable damage. We didn't just spend books preparing for a journey just to drop it here. In SkyClan, Starlingpaw fell asleep in his tree, waking up to see Moonpaw and Morningkit in the woods below. He overhears them talking about leaving the clans. He confronts them and learns the truth of Morningkit. It was really cool to see another cat speak to her directly. I'd love to see more of it. It's kind of unfortunate they're leaving now. Starlingpaw thinks that Moonpaw could be the Deceiver, despite how good she seems. So he helps her through the territory, thinking that if she's gone, no harm will come from her. A cat who seems good and doesn't realize the danger they may pose. That sounds a lot more like Starlingpaw than Moonpaw to me. He bids them goodbye at the border, sure that he saved the clans. Moonpaw's journey begins with a Thunderpath crossing. A classic. As she tries to cross, Morningkit screams at her to stop right in the middle, thinking she saw a fox on the other side. Moonpaw makes it safely, but Moonpaw can't help but wonder if Morningkit just tried to get her killed. Yeah, it was more than a little sketchy. While hunting, she also nearly drowns in some mud. Morningkit way too interested in the idea. Okay, yeah, she's definitely trying to kill her. She'd much rather Moonpaw be dead with her. I'm starting to think this excursion is a way worse idea than it initially seemed. She runs into trouble with kitty pets, but Goldenpaw swoops in to help. I knew he'd appear eventually, but I wasn't expecting him so quickly. The final chapter, Tawny Pelt. Let's see just what's happened with the Moonpool. Cats from all the clans head to sea. Tawny Pelt sharing my misgivings that all is not well. We were right to worry. Things are dire. The Two Legs have claimed the place as their own, destroying so much of what made the place special. The connection to StarClan completely severed. I have that same gut-wrenching feeling that I felt when the Moonstone was destroyed all those years ago. I knew this was coming in some form, but it's still really hard to witness. I still remember when Leafpool first found this place. I never imagined at the time that this was what would become of it. At the very least, the book ends with Tigerstar apologizing to Tawny Pelt for not believing her, even though it visibly pains him to admit he was wrong. He swears to back her in whatever StarClan wants her to do. I guess we will see how far that goes in Book 4. Thanks for watching. What a wild conclusion! My first thought is I wonder if the questing cats will run into Moonpaw at all, and if both Tawny Pelt and Starlingpaw will be on that journey. I think Tawny Pelt is a given, but maybe not Starlingpaw. It would be wild to have all our POVs out of clan territory, but who knows? But yeah, this was pretty great. I'm super excited about the potential of Starlingpaw maybe being set up as an antagonist. That would be really cool and such an interesting direction for his character, and a bit of a first for the series. I think he currently makes the most sense to be the two-faced cat, but I've had a bit of a history being wrong with my theories, so we shall see. I'm also looking forward to seeing Tigerstar working with Tawny Pelt instead of against her. And I want to know where Moonpaw ends up. There's definitely a lot to process about this book, as usual, but I've been really liking this arc. It just feels exciting, and has really been inspiring me to be more involved with the series again. After so many books, I get tired of just drawing warriors sometimes. But these last few have really made me want to, so that's been really cool. Let me know how you feel about it, and I'll see you next Thursday.